Good evening and welcome to the March 11th, 2013 regular meeting of the Edina School Board. We do have a quorum this evening. Member Scrittner is joining us via WebEx. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. We had a special meeting on February 25th and a regular meeting also on February 25th. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any additions or corrections to those minutes as written? Seeing none, we'll now proceed to a roll call vote.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes have been approved. Rick, could you please walk us through tonight's agenda?
I certainly will. I also want to just touch base with the board and the community on a meeting that we held just prior to this regular meeting. We had a work session where the board met for 2 hours, just getting an update on some of the program study areas that we're working through. We did spend some time with our Director of Teaching and Learning, Randy Smazel, talking about the secondary study. We also talked a little bit about our All for All report, which is coming up later tonight's meeting, looking at how we can serve all students. We spent a little bit of time just framing up our budget and staffing plans for the 2013-14 year, and the board gave us some insights on next steps as it relates to that. The board held a retreat on January 12th, and out of that retreat came many suggestions of how we can do a better job of connecting both internally in our operations as a school board administration, but also with the public. And some of those recommendations were discussed, and they're now being implemented either through policy or practice. And then finally, there was a brief update on just some of the leadership activities occurring in the district, and that concluded the special work session. We'll continue to do this prior to our regular meetings, and we do have a work session that's not televised, just for people are aware of some of the work that the board does beyond the regular meeting. As far as the regular meeting agenda, Elle, I may need some help for advancing here. My clicker's not working. There you go. Thank you. We have a series of recognitions with staff who've been involved in our Ed Fund Innovation Grant, and Karen Nelson will be going through that effort. We have a presentation from our friends at Countryside Elementary, and Karen Bergman will be leading that charge. We have a variety of reports on our Closing the Gap program, also our communications work that Susan Broad and her advisory team has put together. We're going to give an update to the community on a safety and security plan. We have two principals who will be sharing the work and the recommendations around that. And then finally, a brief leadership update from the superintendent. With that, I need an advance again. Thank you. The consent agenda item is quite straightforward. We have a variety of personnel recommendations. Within those recommendations, would want the board to note that we have a variety of non-renew and termination. That, again, that's a procedure that we have as we're building our budget, and since we're not sure of the status, we need to meet necessary timelines, so we've identified a number of staff. Some of those may be coming back as the budget continues to evolve around termination and non-renewals. We do have one field trip that the Japanese team is taking that does require board action. Under the action items, Mary Manderfold will be seeking board approval for the integration budget. We'll be talking a little bit about that at the leadership component, but Mary will also give an update. Susan will be seeking approval from the board on the communication plan, our safety and security plan. Val Burke, who chaired that committee, will be seeking approval, or acceptance, I should say, of that. We have some maintenance items as relates to the projects that are coming this summer, a major technology purchase, and then strategic initiatives. So it's a busy schedule as we look at it. Then finally, we have a variety of policies the board will be seeking approval on. And finally, we have some discussion items as relates to policy, and that will conclude our evening's agenda as scheduled. Would ask the board if we could add one other agenda item. That's a walk-in item. That's the pool lighting. And Mr. Chair, you wanted to locate that?
Under D5?
D5. So it would be 8D5. We'd add the pool lighting at Southview as an agenda item. The board did receive that background information in their packet at the table tonight, and we'll talk more about it when it comes to that point. Also want to welcome the 9th grade governance class from Valley View who are here to join us. I will be joining them in a couple of weeks to spend time learning about how local government works, and we welcome them for being and thank them for being here tonight. With that, it concludes the overview of previous meetings as well as tonight's agenda.
Thank you, Rick. At this time, I'll accept a motion to insert item D5, Southview Middle School pool lighting upgrades. In addition to that, I'd like to combine items under Section D, our capital improvements, also items E, our technology purchases, each under their separate motions, then also combine, for sake of time, items under G, which is the revision of policies, and then H we can review separately as well in item H. In a motion?
I move.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Great. Presentations?
I believe we have a hearing. Someone wants to speak to,
Oh, I was going to push that back.
oh, sure, let's do that, okay. Let's do the presentation from Countryside, how about that?
Great.
Karen Bergman, if you could come forward, please, and we welcome you and your team of Countryside friends to the stand and learn more about digital literacy, please.
That's a great way to put it. I brought a lot of my friends with me, and Superintendent Dressen, Board Chair Meyer, and other board members, we are so pleased to be here tonight to tell you about the learning that we're doing at Countryside. And not only the students are learning, but the staff are learning. And so they're going to start it off and tell you about what we've been doing as staff. And then the kids are going to show you all the great things that they have put together based on that. So I would like to introduce Jen Gross and Kristen Davis. They are two of our teacher leaders in the building, and they have been spearheading a lot of our work this year. So I will let them tell you what we are here for.
Good evening. In 2012, Countryside received an Ed Fund grant to train teachers in digital and the media literacies.
And part of our work was to align the media literacies to the new language arts standards. And then we took those media literacies and scaffolded them throughout kindergarten through 5th grade.
We brought a few students to share their work with you. This is Miss Angela Gatke. She's a K+ teacher at Countryside.
I brought two students with me today. I have Saharla and Quinlan, and we're going to show a couple of examples of how we've been using our iPads in kindergarten. This is the first year that we've gotten iPads. We have 5 iPads in each of the 3K+ classrooms. And I am going to help Saharla talk a little bit about what we did way back in September using our iPads in the classroom.
My name is Saharla, and we did rhyme time.
And for rhyme time, the children bring in 2 objects and a paper bag that rhyme. And they pull out one object from the bag, and the rest of the class has to guess what could possibly be in the bag that rhymes. After doing that, because I had the iPads, that we thought, wouldn't it be great to keep these objects? So I worked with the children, and we learned how to take pictures with the iPads and record our rhyming in VoiceThread. So Saharla wants to show you kind of what we did with that. And so we learned how to do taking pictures, and we also, what did we practice?
Recording our voice.
Recording our voices. So that was our first opportunity. So I'm just going to play part of it.
Walk, rock. Twalk, talk. Phone, phone. Script, owl, towel.
Nice.
Train, plane.
I won't play the whole thing, but we get lots of practice. But it was also a good reteaching tool with those students that needed extra practice on rhyming. We could kind of watch it a couple times and send it on to families as well. I'm going to let my next friend come and talk, because this is a newer thing that we've been working on in kindergarten with a new app that we have.
My name is Quinlan, and we were doing writer's workshop.
And during Writer's Workshop all year, we've been working on becoming real authors. So we have a new app that we're playing with, and Quinlan, tell them a little bit about the app.
It's called My Story, and you can write stories on it with your finger.
And after you write the story, what can you do?
You can record your voice.
So we literally just got this last week and we're playing with it. And by the time we had introduced it to the class, I walked over and Quinlan had already done an amazing story. So he agreed to let us see it tonight.
My dog. This is my dog. My dog's food and water. My dog and me. My dog on its dog bed. My dog and me taking him for a walk. This is my family and my dog. And thanks for reading my story. My name is Quinlan. I live in Minnesota, Edina. My grade is kindergarten, and I like to do baseball.
So that was the author page,
Yeah.
as you can see at the end.
Nice job.
All right.
My name is Molly Sarzinski, and I teach 3rd and 4th grade continuous progress. And we also have some iPads in our classroom, and some of my students are going to share with you a project that we recently did.
My name is Grace, and I am 4th grade. My name is Sean, and I'm in 4th grade also.
My name's Jack, and I'm in 3rd grade.
Hello, my name's Rory, and I'm in 4th grade.
My name's Petra, and I'm in 3rd grade.
For social studies, we are studying the regions of the United States. We were given a family and had to decide which region they should move to.
We decided this based on their jobs and their hobbies.
So, without further ado, on with the video.
The Goldstein family. The best place for the family is the Southwest because of the hiking trails.
The summer in the Southwest is perfect for playing around in the sunshine.
The winter in the Southwest region is beautiful.
This is the spring in the Southwest region.
This is the fall in the Southwest region, and it's perfect for hiking.
The dad is a cattle rancher. The Southwest has lots of cows. The mothers are scientists, and there's a lot of things to experiment in the Southwest.
The daughter is a baby that is very allergic to car exhaust. This is a beautiful sight in the Southwest region.
This is Mount Wheeler. It has the largest point in the Southwest region. The grandpa is a retired park ranger, and he likes to hike and look at fossils.
This is the dad, and his name is David. This is the mom, and her name is Julia. This is Carly, 9-month-old baby.
Southwest region is perfect for the Goldstein family.
My first name is Katie, and my last name is Sweeney. I'm a 5th grade teacher at Countryside, and I have 3 lovely ladies over here. You can come over here to share Explore timeline projects. And we researched, chose an Explore, and then we put our information on an online site called Dippity. So it's a timeline chronologically. Their research was placed on the website, and they're going to share a little bit about what they learned and what they liked about it.
Hi, my name is Bella Selly.
Hi, my name is Nicole Copeland.
Hi, my name is Megan McClanahan, and we are 5th graders at Countryside Elementary. This year, we have done many projects involving computers and digital literacy.
We have used Glogster, Moodle, Dippity, Vokies, Edina apps, Microsoft Word, Publisher, and many others.
Today, we will share social studies Dippity timelines with you all. First, we learned about the background information about explorers and social studies, and then selected one we wanted to learn more about.
Then we research for factual information and dates. We look for research on when they were born, why they are famous, their death, and information on how they have made an impact on history.
Then we put our information in chronological order, and then we learned how to create a timeline on Dippity.com. I researched Sally Ride. It was fun to learn that at age 32, she was the first female to walk on the moon. I thought it was also interesting that she died of pancreatic cancer.
I researched Mary Kingsley. It was fun to learn about this brave explorer. I learned that she wrote several books about her adventures, including the times when she fought a crocodile, fell into native spear traps, and got caught in a tornado on the slopes of Mount Cameroon.
I researched Robert Falcon Scott. It was fun to learn about his life and how he was in many books and movies about his adventures. I thought it was interesting to learn that in his lifetime he has been on 30 to 40 ships and traveled to many different places around the world, such as Antarctica.
Thank you all for your time and listening to our presentation.
Jen and Kristen started it out by telling you about what the teachers are learning, and the kids actually put it into practice. And one of the things that the kids can all tell you is how does it connect with what we're learning about, and how does it also connect with the media literacies that we as teachers and staff are learning about, and how do we share it with kids. Any questions you might have for our students, our experts?
I was wondering how they are enjoying working with the various technologies, and do you feel that it's made like learning about the different people that you learned about more interesting for you?
Bella, come over and say that again. It was very elegant.
It was very fun to do more like stuff with it.
Always good to do more stuff.
So I have a question for any of the grades. Well, I guess specifically for the 3rd graders and the 5th graders, when you had some research projects, we're seeing the outcome, and it's beautiful. It's great to hear your voice. It's great to see the illustrations and hear the music. How did you get the information to make the presentation?
Well, we got some books, and we worked in groups and did some packets on the regions.
So that's lots of different resources. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you, everybody,
much.
for coming.
Thank you.
We
Great to have you
appreciate
here
your
tonight.
time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll have our Ed Fund recipients.
I ask Karen Nelson to come forward, oversees our education fund and the whole program, and Karen's got a team of players to join her. So we'd ask our teachers also to come forward at this time. Karen, this is always an exciting time of the year for you and the board when you go around and award the Innovations Grant, which is a big part of the work that the Ed Fund does annually. Why don't you talk a little bit about the process and the feelings that you get when you go out and do that award, and then if you could introduce our guests tonight.
Okay, great. Thanks. It is a very exciting time of year. We were pleased to announce and give out 16 innovation grants this year. And the fun part of it is we go and we surprise the teachers in their classrooms. And some are very surprised and shocked when they see us. And the students, too, are very surprised. Like, oh, no, are you in trouble? What did you do? So with all that kind of fun excitement, we do have 16 grants that were given out representing a variety of different areas: technology, science, curriculum, an outdoor garden, and I'm going to have all of these 9 people here this evening introduce themselves and let us know what their grant was for. We gave out $55,000 worth of grants, and all 9 schools were represented with these 16 grants.
I'm Barb Hodney, and I'm at the high school with special education. Our grant is a performance assessment exploration work lab for special education students to develop their work skills. So it's good for kids, and we're also hoping to save the district some money on some things that we contract out usually.
Hi, I'm Mary Smith. I'm an ESL teacher at Cornelia, and my grant was for involving families in the community. So our target is families that receive free reduced lunch, so they can participate in one performance at the Stages Theater and a couple of trips to the Como Zoo.
My name is Julie Mitchell. I'm a physical education teacher at Highlands Elementary, and my grant was for strapless activity monitors, which is similar to a heart rate monitor, except for younger kids. It works better to have something without a chest strap. So 1st through 5th graders at Highlands will be wearing strapless activity monitors next fall.
My name is Megan Hasselbar. I teach 6th grade math at Southview Middle School. And my team and I won a grant for 30 Chromebooks and a cart to connect social studies, science, math, and reading and language arts together. So it's an easy flow for all the kids, and they know how to use that Chromebook across all of their classes.
My name is Sarah Swenson. I'm the media specialist at the high school, and our grant was to update the furniture in our area to make collaborative workspaces for students, and also have Mediascape tables, which are giant monitors like the one on the floor that students can plug their own devices in to make for easier collaboration.
My name is Laura Hansen. I'm a learning specialist at Normandale French Immersion, and my grant was technology to connect the Tier 1 and Tier 2 classrooms. So a small set of iPads and Chromebooks to meet children wherever their learning space is, and the best technology for the best age of student. And we'll be using them before school and after school in our Success Center programs during the day, and then during the summer for our Success Center as well.
My name is Kristen Powell, and I represent the 4th grade team over at Creek Valley. And our grant was called 21st Century Orienteering, a hands-on approach to latitude and longitude, which is a very long way of saying we're hoping to help the kids that are 4th graders understand the very abstract concepts of latitude and longitude by putting handheld GPSs in their hands and helping them to use those to navigate around school grounds and get a real world kind of application, doing a little modified geocaching right at Creek Valley.
My name is Lori Holland, and I'm the media specialist at Concord Elementary. My grant was eBooks for Inquiry, and we'll be developing an online virtual ebook library full of nonfiction to support the science and social studies curriculum.
I'm Chris Tower. I teach 5th grade at Concord, and my grant was for expanding the garden that we built last year by infusing technology into it with the use of iPads, and also to build a larger handicap accessible raised bed garden for all students.
Karen and the Ed Fund, we thank you very much. This is a big part of our research and development. This is where we really do get some of our best ideas that we embed into the system as it goes. And staff here, teachers, colleagues, thank you for taking the extra time. 1, to apply, but 2, to get excited to do this implementation, because this is the difference-making work. And so we really do appreciate all your work, and then going this extra 10% or 20% or whatever it's going to be to implement this successfully. So congratulations. Thank you for coming out tonight, and we wish you the best in your implementation. Take care.
Good. How are you doing?
Okay.
Thank you.
You got that right, huh? Very
Next up, we do have a request to address the school board. Doug McLeod. Reminder to the public that individuals are welcome to come present to the board. The presentation or discussion is limited to 3 minutes. There will be no board discussion on these issues during tonight's meeting or any other meeting, but the board will assign someone to follow up with individuals who've requested to speak at meetings. And Doug is here talking about the K-plus wait list at Normandale, which is related to some space issues that I believe are being worked out or in the process of hopefully being worked out. Welcome, Doug.
Welcome, Doug.
Thank you. One of these?
Yep, it is.
Again, my name is Doug McLeod. Thank you for giving me a little bit of time. I have 2 students currently at Normandale and an incoming kindergartner who we desire to be part of the K-plus all-day program, especially in light of the language challenges and some challenges that our other students have had. We felt that was a better option, but we're not selected through the lottery. And my understanding in speaking with the principal at Normandale, Jerry Lukaska, that the wait list is currently at 16 or 17 students, and so clearly there's a demand there and a desire for students to be part of that program. And also in light of the All for All program, we just felt like if you're not lucky enough to be selected through that lottery, there are some students that are going to have possibly a better educational or better preparation for first grade. So that's my concern and frustration at this point, and would love to speak with somebody to follow up and see if there's something that can be done. So.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. And we'll be in touch, Doug. Mary Manderfield will probably be your contact. I think you've exchanged some emails, and we're working through it as we plan for 13-14, but appreciate you coming out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And frankly, kindergarten, all-day kindergarten space has been an issue in a number of buildings, so we continue to work through that as part of our long-term facilities planning as well. Next up, we got our All for All program, Close the Gap presentation. Chad?
We have a team of administrators coming forward. It's been a program that's been worked on as around our personalized learning and our desire to close both the access and opportunity gap. Would remind the board tonight this is a presentation. The board will be looking to accept the report at the April meeting. So this is just kind of an overview of the work. Then the presentation will be presented next regular meeting in April.
All right. Good evening, board and members of the community. Thank you for this opportunity to share the All for All plan with you. I'm here with my colleagues Randy Smazel, Director of Teaching and Learning, Penny Kodrich, Director of Special Services, and Mary Manderfield, Director of Enrollment and School Improvement, but also want to acknowledge the impressive work of many of our Edina colleagues. Our Educational Delivery Committee consisted of all building principals, representatives from the Teaching and Learning Department, Special Services, Media and Technology, Enrollment and School Improvement, and Research and Evaluation departments. So there are many people who had their hands in this work. We've been studying the achievement, opportunity, and access gaps all year, along with strategies for closing them. And some of the work that we've been doing included reviewing school improvement plans for current initiatives around this area, addressing any immediate needs that showed up in those school improvement plans, building a common vocabulary, collecting and reviewing data, a literature review, and finally building a plan. And that's what we're going to share with you tonight. Measured growth and high achievement for each and every student without predictable links to race and income is a phrase that came from the district's strategic planning work last school year, and one that has guided our work as we've tried to build this plan. Using an idea from one of the reports that we read along the way, we decided to frame our recommendations under 5 organizing gaps. So our plan clarifies recommendation and work to be done in each of these gap areas: the leadership gap, belief gap, preparation gap, teaching and learning gap, and time gap. Part of our work in developing the recommendations that you'll see and hear about in just a few minutes includes considering the impact of successfully addressing or implementing recommendations, the necessary resources for doing so, and finally the metrics that we can use to measure the impact of our collective work on this All for All plan. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic here to my friends, and Randy's going to start by introducing the leadership gap.
Good evening. As part of our leadership gap, we have several recommendations that we'd like to continue to discuss with the board. Implementing a PK-12 response to instruction and intervention framework was started years ago. And our challenge is to continue to implement that program with fidelity. That program is really about what our response is when students learn faster than other students, or when students don't learn fast enough in the amount of time that we have for instruction to occur. So it's really about continuous improvement. How can we continue to grow and get better at implementing our responses to student learning? And to do that, part of our action will be to conduct an annual audit of our implementation of RTI, or response to instruction and intervention. We'll also continue, or would like to continue, to support building positions and structures. We have RTI learning and math specialists in the buildings, and they provide additional support for learners. So that is a critical element of being able to continue this framework with fidelity. We also have a second recommendation under leadership, which revolves around high quality staff. We know from the research that the biggest school factor affecting student achievement is the quality of the teacher in the classroom. And recruiting and hiring and retaining high quality teachers who are racially conscious and represent a diverse background is a critical aspect of moving forward. And so we want to hire teachers that understand cultural diversity and represent the students that they have in front of them in school. With that, I'll turn it to Penny in a second to discuss the belief gap.
Research shows that the beliefs and the expectations of the students by parents, teachers, and the community all contribute to the achievement gap. Put simply, if people do not believe it can be closed, it probably won't. And if people do believe it will and can be closed, it will be done. And so as educators, it is very important for us to identify and clarify our beliefs about learning and the expectations to learn for each and every student. Research shows that high expectations strongly influence the student's efforts and performance. High expectations, or what you might call the pressure to learn, ranks second among all school-level factors that impact students' achievement, and that's irrespective of race, cultural differences, or disability factors. On the other hand, research reports indicates that expectations for academic achievement for learners from diverse cultures, lower incomes, race, and perceived ability levels is lower than for typical learners. So our first recommendation is to continue to support the equity training work that is occurring in the district. We want to be sure that we train and educate all staff in supporting academic achievement for all learners. So this spring and annually, we are suggesting that we conduct an annual audit of E-Teams, or the equity team's progress in training and educating all staff. And this will take the shape in the form of surveys and data collection that exists, and we will use the district scorecards then to measure equity attainment. We also want to assure that in the school improvement planning process for each building, that there will be goals focused on equity and learning. And then lastly, another action step is that we would like to provide leadership training for a train the trainers model, so that the equity work is not necessarily contracted out, but within, and that we can further embed it throughout our system. The second recommendation is to identify and clarify beliefs about learning expectations for each and every student. We feel that we need to continue to provide the professional development within the PLC, or the professional learning community structure, to clarify and confirm common beliefs about student learning. And part of what might be studied is Dr. Dweck's work from Stanford University on mindset theory. Research supports the understanding that intelligence and abilities can be developed, and has shown a powerful impact on student motivation and learning, and ultimately on school success for all students. Another action that we are suggesting is to create a pathways to success indicators of college and career readiness. And this is really about formally designing a roadmap to post-secondary success, beginning not at middle school, but actually at a pre-K level for each student. We would need to articulate the key touch points along the way and measure it, but we know from some of our neighboring school districts they have a pathway to success. And so the goal is ultimately for all students to be accepted into the post-secondary school or program of their choice. And we recognize that each step along the way is really key to realizing their post-secondary success. And because the community and their belief is so important, we would like to see that our communication tools will really help our community understand our common beliefs. In other words, showcase examples, create vignettes, so the belief becomes the expectation. Okay, I'm going to continue to talk about the preparation gap, one that's very close to my heart. We know that the gap begins really young. Many students begin kindergarten already behind. And if you recall from our last board meeting, the Early Childhood Special Education team gave a presentation. And they talked about from the time students are born, we have only 2,000 days to prepare them for kindergarten. And yet at that same time, 90% of the critical brain functioning is developed. So we have a lot of work to do. And for many children and families, they may not have access to the already wonderful supports we have in the system. There is in place a system for doing preschool screening, but it begins at about age 3.5 to age 4. And it's really looking for developmental delays. And so we are recommending implementing a screening tool and a process to assess developmental milestones and social emotional development for infants and toddlers. So in other words, we'd like to take our system and begin younger. And so we would need to develop those, the purpose for the screening, look at the school readiness factors, and also to really look at our current census data collections and procedures and make recommendations for improvements so that we're being sure that we are reaching out to all families. The other recommendation is to be sure we have a strong outreach to parents and families. We want to be able to create a comprehensive communications outreach. And we know that for parent education model, that it has to be accessible, not just in terms of location, cost, but also in terms of the time when enriching parenting supports and skills can be taught. We also would like to then study high quality preschool programs and make recommendations related to that. And that leads to the third recommendation is that as we are next year looking at the pre-K elementary study, we want to make sure that there is just really a coherent and comprehensive preschool program that encompasses all early child services and programs, and it aligns with K-5. We have a wonderful program already, but we feel that we can make it richer and deeper, and we can start much younger. We'd like to partner with community daycare, preschool providers, social services, and healthcare professionals so that comprehensive services are accessible to all families and children. So now I'm going to pass this back to Randy.
Thank you. In our strategic plan, we discuss advancing professional learning communities. Professional learning communities being defined as teams of teachers in the buildings, teams of staff in the buildings that are focused on improving achievement and the climate for students. This recommendation around growing and supporting effective PLCs is really about continuing to support a system-wide journey to improve our collaboration teams. Training for principals and teacher leaders and staff is an essential element of moving this work forward. To support that work, we also need time for that collaboration, time for those teachers to meet. Their focus is around clarifying what they want students to understand, know, and be able to do. To debate quality evidence of learning and what that evidence really looks like. And trust me, that is a debate. To analyze what to do when students are learning faster than other students or when students aren't learning fast enough. There is much more of a focus on student data and engagement than there has ever been in education. And that kind of work requires time for staff to work differently than they've worked in the past. That allotment of time allows staff to change their instruction, to adapt to what they need to do for their learners. So one of the elements of embedding time for collaboration, one of those, that action step rather helps support the growth and the support of our professional learning communities. Our second recommendation is to grow student engagement to enhance the ownership of their learning. We know that when students are engaged, they're more motivated as learners, and as a result, learning increases. Well, how do you do that? We know from the research we can actually teach students how to understand and develop skills around their own level of engagement. As Quinlan, our kindergartner who spoke earlier, talked about the writer's workshop experience and his writing skills. Another strategy to improve engagement with young students, and students of all ages actually, is to teach students how to use writing as a critical strategy to clarify their thinking and reflect on their learning. So through support of writing structures, through teaching students how to monitor their own student engagement, again, we hope to increase motivation and learning throughout our system. And I'll pass it to Mary to talk about our time gap.
Good evening. So the two recommendations we have in the time gap, the first one is more time for learning during the school day, outside the school day, during the school year and beyond the school year. And potential action items under that would be look at offering before and after school and summer intervention classes, especially in the area of math and reading. Along with that, we will need to provide transportation to implement that plan. A second potential action item would be implement a Saturday school. This past fall, winter, we had a very abbreviated Saturday school program that was run over with our partners in outside of the district, but in the district, but an outside organization, and it provided an opportunity for us to partner with the community and have students come walk, actually in this case, to 4 hours of Saturday. The third would be offering free enrichment opportunities, after school, weekends, summer, again, providing transportation where and when needed. Our second recommendation would be utilizing technology to extend student opportunities to learn, anytime, anywhere, learning modules available year-round. To that end, an action item would be continue to grow the e-academy efforts to record and upload Edina teachers' lessons. Also an opportunity for students and families to check out technology resources during the evening, weekend, and summer. Right now, we have pretty good data that suggests almost all of our families do have access to a computer and or to internet, but how many computers would they necessarily have access to? And by allowing students and families an opportunity to check out technology that we have, hopefully that will also help close the time gap. The third would be module courses available as an after-school class. So those are the recommendations with the time gap. Then you will look at a phased-in implementation. And if you look across, the A's are really the leadership gap. The items that fall under B are for the belief gap. The C items are from the preparation gap. D is from teaching and learning, and E is from the time gap. So there is a 3-year phased-in implementation, beginning with this present school year that we're under, the 12-13 school year. Leadership is continue to recruit and hire highly qualified teachers, and then doing an audit on our RTI strategies, actually our RTI program. Under the belief, clarify our beliefs, as was mentioned earlier, create this pathway to success, and then follow up with an audit of our E-teams. We've been doing E-team training for the last 3 years. Now it's time to really evaluate what place is every school and or department at in that work. Under the preparation gap, really studying our census data. What kind of data do we have on our families in early childhood that have not yet started our school? Teaching and learning, Randy has spoken about the PLC training. And then finally, under the time gap, grow the E-Academy, utilizing current frameworks for content development. And right now we're providing training and pay for completed contents by teachers. Some of our items for next year are school improvement plans. So if you look under under leadership, the SIP stands for School Improvement Plan. We want to embed the equity-focused goals in there and continue to study our present teacher observation. For our belief gaps, communicate racial equity beliefs, and then as Penny mentioned, train the trainer model. We're hoping to identify 40 to 45 staff that would go through a training next year, with the hope being that they then become the trainers in our district. Instead of always relying on an outside consultant to come in and provide the training, we'd have some trainers within our system to do that. Under the preparation gap, clarify development steps, doing the outreach to early childhood parents, and studying our early childhood screening model. Under teaching and learning, refining our PLC protocols, and then really studying student engagement. For the time gap, we're looking again at extended school day and year, and the opportunity for a technology checkout. And then finally, for the 14-15 year, we're looking under leadership for equity-focused mentoring and calibrated teacher observations. Under belief, equity profession development embedded in our PLCs. Under preparation, develop the parent education model. We will be studying highly quality preschools, and then piloting early childhood screening tools. Under the teaching and learning, collaboration time and advance the student engagement. And then finally, under the time gap, looking at intervention and enrichment, and also Saturday school. Thank you.
Thank you all. Lots of work. Questions?
Are you finding it easy to get census data to help you with your efforts?
I understand that Steve Butner has been working on that. Steve, do you want to comment? He's already looked into that. Do you feel you can comment on that?
At least at the Family Center, when we tried to look at that data to try to bring new babies in, sometimes it can be difficult to get access to.
That is the case. What we have started working just last week and will continue working is working with the Family Center and the school readiness to have that information in one spot into our census. And so we think that that's going to help not only for us to be able to track our students as they begin their education system, so that E up into the kindergarten, but also as those children become kindergarten and early childhood age, we'll be able to actually market to them and send out reminders to have them update their information. On top of that, we are also sending out self-addressed stamped envelopes to new move-ins in the neighborhoods and the families to ask them to fill out that information. So we're actively collecting information and putting that into our census. And so there is a lot of work to do, but we are looking after that and making our systems talk with each other so that census data is as up to date as possible.
Is there an evaluation system for students transferring in? Because we talk about the pre-K. So when students come in, say in third grade, what are we doing?
I think that's a great question. And so part of it is this articulation of our pathways to success. So as we've got some articulated checkpoints along the way, an early opportunity for a student who joins us, say, at third grade for the first time would be to say, where are they at relative to this pathway to success indicators? And then what do we need to do to either ramp up and help them get to the spot where they're ready for this sort of college and career pathway? Or if they're already exceeding it, what can we do to challenge them and to continue to grow their knowledge and their understanding and their skills?
For students where English is not the first language, If they have been evaluated outside of the system for their English language learning, we can take that data, or we will conduct that ourselves. And that helps us to know what their proficiency level is, because they are on a scale of 1 to 6 in terms of proficiency. And that really helps us then as well to plan in terms of their English language learning, and what they need to, as you said, ramp up if they need it.
Yeah, I was just going to say there are a lot of different efforts there, and I think it's very important that we know which ones are actually effective, because there will be a point in time where we may have to choose between one tack or another. So there should be some type of measurement. For example, I don't know what we're doing with the Saturday school. Are we following the effectiveness of that? Same thing with the, any other program that we will be affecting. I would encourage us to add some kind of an evaluation of effectiveness.
So part of our discussion has been to try to determine what are the metrics that we would use to measure the impact of implementing this recommendation and then the following supporting action plans. So I think it's a great question, and it's certainly something that as a system we need to be tracking so that we can say confidently that we know when we did this, this was the result.
As a follow-up to that, I mean, a number of the proposals talked about having to arrange transportation for before or after or for summer. If we can use the technology, for example, so that the kids can be at home and enhance their education, then we can possibly leverage the technology and not worry so much about a daily transportation. So if you can compare those two, that would be great.
Additional questions? I see there is some internet service or internet connections as a part of that. Is that for home use, or are we starting to do that for some families that don't have access?
This is in the integration budget?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll defer to Steve there if he can help us answer that.
We do help our Choice is Yours and some of our families with internet access. And the way that works is we provide them with a mobile hotspot. So we purchase the mobile hotspot, and then the internet service fee is a negotiated or an arrangement between the families and the organization. And some of them, I think, Mary, we might help subsidize on those, but most of the time what we try to do is provide them with the mobile hotspot, and then the actual internet service is something that's an expectation for the family.
Yeah, and so for our Choice is Yours families, again, families that live in the city of Minneapolis and qualify to attend Edina schools because they qualify for free and reduced price meals, we do have the integration budget and have for the last 4 years provided internet service for these families through USI, which is the internet provider in Minneapolis. We ironically just had a meeting today, Mr. Butner, myself, and some of his support staff to look at maybe even creating some, almost a smorgasbord of options. Would the hotspot be better than USI? Would it be better to have them connect with Comcast? And then we pay that. So we are going to evaluate what is going to be the best way for us to deliver that high-speed internet to our families as we move forward.
Thank you. Additional questions? Comments? Thank you all.
Thank you very much for all your work.
Next up, we have our communications plan.
Susan Brott joined us in July and has been busy every step of the way since she joined us. Among the work she's done has been coordinating a district-wide communication and partnership plan, and we asked her tonight to provide an overview of that plan. The board will be acting later tonight to accept the plan, which will then move it into an action level, and we'll prioritize and start moving on that yet this spring and then in full swing in the 13-14 school year. Welcome.
Yes, thank you very much for letting me share this communications plan with you. As Dr. Dressen said, it has been great work so far. I mean, I've had a lot of work to keep me busy, but working on this has really afforded me the time to learn about the community and do some more spent a lot of time doing research, talking whether it was through surveys, focus groups, a variety of different research strategies, also looking at some best practices of strategic communications as well. I do want to start by articulating that this is the kind of that 30,000 foot level. This is not the implementation plan as we've talked about. And I think it's very interesting to be following the All for All plan, because a lot of the things that I'm talking about in the communications plan align very well with the All for All plan. As you heard, communication is a key aspect of that. And so we really want to look at the purpose. And I look at when we've put this together and we've put it through our communications advisory group as well as some other team members around the district, and just developing this communications program so that communications in the district really are a model of excellence, sort of aligning with our defining excellence tagline that we often use, and really seeing communication to effectively support the strategic plan. So in the actual plan itself, which is available for the public as well, you'll see that the first page is all of our district mission, our vision, our values, because communication shouldn't be separate from that. It should very much be linked with that. We also have an end goal here to really look at how we can not just be sharing information. We don't just want our stakeholders, both our internal and our external stakeholders, to be better informed. We want them to be better connected, and so that's why it's really about a partnership as well. So the goals and the objectives of the plan are, as stated, we've identified 4 primary goals, which I'll kind of go into in a little bit. Specific strategies for each of those goals have been developed. And then the next step then is, after acceptance of this plan, is to develop those implementation and action steps for that. Really looking at the specific tactics that we could use, what is the tool that we'll be using, how will that be implemented, who's going to be responsible for that. Sometimes it's going to be the communications department, it might be a shared responsibility. What are the timelines, what resources, be they financial, people, whatever that might be needed to make that happen, and then obviously some metrics for evaluation, because we want to make sure that these communications efforts are being effective. So, as any good communications plan should always start with who is our audiences. So I've kind of grouped them into some primary and secondary audiences. And the primary audiences, not that any of these aren't important, but clearly we have our internal audience of staff, and with that I break it down into looking at the various employee groups, because it's important to remember that not all of our staff receive information in the same way and engage in the same way. Students are a very important audience, obviously our parents and our families, and then looking within that is various subgroups of our parents. Our, as you heard a lot, focus on the All for All plan, looking at our birth to 5 families, how do we better connect them with the work of the school district, looking at our families that are new to Edina. As is true with any community that you move into, but I've kind of felt it here more so, is that there's an Edina way, and it's hard to navigate the Edina way when you're new to the community. So how do we help people do that through communications and engagement? And then also some of our families looking at more opportunities for multilingual communications, looking at engaging our families of color more in the work of the district as our district continues to change. We're looking at some key opinion leaders, obviously, to help us carry that message, and then there's the secondary community audiences as well. That it's always important to remember that we're communicating with the broad community. But we know that starting with some of those primary audiences is really key to reaching that broader community. And there's certain issues that are going to be of more interest to the broader community than others. So just kind of looking in a little bit more detail at some of the strategies that we might have. So with the first 2 goals, we have our internal and our external stakeholders. And so internally looking at how can we ensure that all of our staff have the information they need so that they feel as though they can communicate it out, because it's not just the communications department to communicate the work of the district. So how do we make them really feel as though they can be ambassadors of Edina Public Schools? And some strategies that we've identified is that we have a weekly electronic communication that goes out to staff, and so we need to make sure that we're monitoring that. What's the readership of that? And how can we really make that become more of the primary district communication tool? We know that we have lots of emails that go around, there's lots of phone calls and things, and so how do we help our staff feel like they're not getting bombarded with information and know that if there's going to be one primary communication coming out a week that they can find most of the information, there's always going to be a time for those other ones, but just sort of help streamline things knowing that there's a lot of information that goes on out there. Also really working on ways to engage some of our staff who maybe don't use those electronic communication tools as much. I know, for example, I had some wonderful conversations with bus drivers this fall and how they best get their information, and so we've implemented some tactics and strategies already about how to communicate with them so that they still get the same information, they just might need to get it in a different way. And because I think it's really about, it's not always about me saying you will get it this way. Sometimes you have to go to where people are. And we are looking at also maintaining those face-to-face communications, so developing some roadshow kind of types of things that we can do with our staff to make sure that the staff feel like they still have the opportunity to communicate with the district office on issues that they have concerns about. And then really looking at how can the communications department continue to be a resource for all staff in the community, how they can continue to improve their school-to-home communications with each other, so whether it's working with administration, it's working with individual teachers, and I've had some wonderful opportunities to do that already, and we're just looking to maybe expand that and let people know that we are here as a resource for all colleagues. So the second goal then is the external stakeholders, and obviously this is not in order of importance, but the external stakeholders of students, parents, and community members, and really making sure that they feel informed and engaged as well. Similarly, we have an electronic e-newsletter that goes out to the community. All of our parents are on that list, as well as any other community members that might be interested in signing up for it. So we send that out right now to about 11,000 email addresses every Friday. And then we are looking at ways to obviously improve that. What kinds of information are people looking at? And we know that when we looked at the survey, the community survey, communication survey that we did in August and September, we really figured out what it was that people wanted to hear more about. So we're going to try to make sure that we're incorporating some of those things. Related to that, we know that we have currently we have a district newsletter that gets mailed to all district residents 3 times a year. And it has a very high readership. And so that would lead me to believe that they would be looking for more information. So we're going to increase that to more of a quarterly basis. It seems more logical next year to go to 4 times a year with that, an opportunity for us to share more information about what's going on. And then also look at some opportunities to do some more specific, targeted communications on some key initiatives. We have a lot of initiatives going on. You just heard the All for All. You've been hearing about the secondary study. Next year we'll have a pre-K elementary study. Those are the facilities study. I could go on. And we need to make sure that maybe there might be those specific times that we maybe just do a targeted postcard out or something. Because while we love electronics, we know that there's also always going to be a need for print and mail. And our data shows that we have a very a population in this community that really does still like to get that piece of paper. So we want to make sure that we're layering our communications in all formats. We're going to be looking at more opportunities for multilingual communications. As I said, looking at ways that we can target maybe some preschool families and those other key transition points between elementary and middle and high school, and helping our families kind of navigate the system. And some other tools about whether it's social media, we have social media accounts, but they're currently a little bit more still on that push out level. And so we'd like them to be really maximize the capacity of those social media tools to make them more engagement tools. And then we are in the process of kind of cleaning up, revising the website a little bit. The website went through a major transition just prior to my coming here, and it's given us an opportunity to kind of look at how that's being used and how can we improve upon that. And we do know that that is the #1 communication vehicle that our residents said that they use. So we want to really build that up, make it a robust repository of information so that we can link to it, whether it's through other print articles, and we can say for more information, go to the website. We know that it's there for our staff to access as well. So really trying to push that up a little bit. And the little clicker thing. Al. There we go, thank you. So then we have a goal that I'm kind of just calling the equity goal, making sure that all of our families are feeling included in the All for All mission that we have, and that they all have meaningful opportunities for engagement. And so we're going to be looking at some specific strategies of how we can engage those new families to Edina, how we can look at our families of color and making sure that they feel represented in decisions that the district is making. We're also using this as an opportunity to look at more partnerships. How can we work with the city? I meet on a monthly basis with the Director of Communications from the city. Actually, we're having lunch again tomorrow, to sort of look at ways that we serve a large portion of the same communities. So how do we make sure that we're getting information out and really partnering with that? And other opportunities for partnership through other educational institutions, other school districts, higher ed, other things that we could possibly do. And then part of that is to make sure that everybody feels like they're engaged in all of the work of the district, to include the work of the school board. And so I know that you have been having discussions about that, and we're here the communications department is here to support your work with that as well, and engaging your constituents. And then the final one is really about how do we help our community understand. And I heard, I think it was Penny mention that, it really is, if we showcase our work correctly, then we can help make that belief into the expectation that we can actually move forward with that. And so how do we make sure that all of our families are understanding why school might need to look different in the future than it did 50 years ago? We have a very quality educational system here now, but we also know that our learners have different needs, and we know that the workforce has different needs. So creating some specific communication strategies and tactics that can help us educate our public about why we need to change, but also what we need to keep. And so helping them understand how we're moving forward with that. And then finally, we'll be looking at this. This is kind of a strategic plan for 2 years, aligning with the timelines of the district strategic plan. But we will be reviewing this annually, and then those individual implementations will have individual metrics along the way. So. And then finally, I think that the communications, that this is really about partnership, it's about dialogue, and it's not just about, hey, I pushed out a newsletter, why didn't you read it? It's really about hearing from our public, and I really do appreciate the opportunities that people call me and say, did you think about doing a story on this? Or did you think about, I didn't really understand how this was communicated. And so that's very helpful, because we know that there's no one way to communicate. So, and I also know that you need to tell somebody something 7 times before it actually starts to stick in their head. So I can't just say, well, it was in one newsletter and it's done. So that is, any questions?
Thanks, Susan. And we did see this at a workshop last month. Any questions, comments? Thank you.
I was just going to say, I like how you're really focused on your internal team, but also obviously the community at large, parents, students. So I think it's great. Thanks.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Next up, we have our safety and security plan. Thanks, guys, for waiting patiently back there.
Val Burke chaired the task force that's been looking at this. It was a project that we had started actually this fall. Obviously, the events that out in Connecticut caused us to probably enhance our work and to put it into a little stronger look. Jason Doctor is the assistant principal at Southview Middle School, and Rick Sandsted's the elementary principal at Concord Elementary, and we welcome both of them. Both served on the task force, and they're going to give us a quick overview. Later in the evening, the board will be accepting this plan, and then we'll prioritize from there. But welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us. We felt a little deserted by all our ninth graders back there, as they had to probably go home and go to bed. But as 2 former ninth grade government teachers, we were very proud that Mr. Anderson had. One left in the Oh, all right, good. Thank you. Your dedication is noted. So thank you so much. So we were excited they were here and engaged in this this important process of board, serving a community, and all those good things that are part of being in this community. So as Rick mentioned with the introduction, we've met a couple of different times and gathered some information regarding, and you have, want to take a look at who had joined us on this. task force. As there might be a slow clicker here.
Al, can you help him out?
The call to Al. Anyway, Val, Steve Brister, Steve Butner, Rick Dressen, Jason and I, all, and then of course working closely with our police officers and police department, really to conduct some audits, take some surveys of staff, working with our architects, and really trying to have a comprehensive approach. Again, Rick mentioned this work started last fall, but again, I remember vividly where I was when the Newtown tragedy occurred, and really has, there's definitely some motivation for me as a principal, and Jason and I talked about this as individuals, as parents, as community members, to really refocus our efforts on some of these areas.
Perfect.
And thanks to Al for teaching us. Appreciate that.
I guess you pushed the arrow.
Yes. Could have used a 9th grader right there.
Right.
So with that, I'll let Jason, we're going to kind of tag team here this evening. So,
as part of my work for the task force, I had the opportunity to see Lieutenant Grossman, who's a national expert on school safety, speak in Jordan. And basically what he did is he organized his recommendations, his presentation into 4 themes, which we used here to kind of do likewise. And those 4 themes are deter, detect, delay, and defeat. And really when we look at deterrence, the number 1 deterrence is going to be a lockdown drill. Deterrence and detection really go hand in hand. So anytime you have a perpetrator that kind of bounces off a deterrence, there's the opportunity for detection. So we want to make sure that we're preparing, assessing, and monitoring those safety challenges. Delay is really, it's about, having those protocols, those procedures in place that allow you to secure the safety of the students and the staff for the amount of time it would take emergency responders to arrive on the scene. And then, of course, in the actual event, it's those partnerships that we have with Edina Public Schools that would work to kind of defeat the threat.
part of this obviously is facilities, and continue to work closely with our architects. And as you've traveled around the district, you've noticed opportunities, whether it's at Concord, as a parent at Countryside, where our schools weren't built in this era and for this purpose necessarily. And so really working closely with our architects to see if there are some opportunities out there where we can provide some more places to deter and detect within our entrances in particular. And again, looking again to work with our architects, Wold Architects, regarding the possibilities there. If you've been around the district, if you volunteered in schools, occasionally you may end up at a door that child thought it would be important to get back in. Maybe it was cold at recess. I know this has happened at Concord before. They'll stick a rock in the door, and maybe 4th and 5th graders get smart when it gets cold outside, and they want to come back in. And so part of that is there some software that might be able to detect if there's an exterior door open. Steve Butner is part of our team, so that's part of that from a facilities standpoint. Adequate visitor parking. Our buildings also were not necessarily designed to where the entrance doesn't match where the parking lot is all the time in some of the sites, and Val in particular. I think the community center is sometimes a challenging place where the entrance is not, there's multiple parking lots, none of them happen to be directly connected to the entrance or where we want people maybe to come in. And so just making sure that we have adequate visitor parking. If we do want people to come in a certain door, we want to facilitate that with some appropriate direction about where they might enter. And then video surveillance as well, that making sure that that's appropriate and in line with some of those best practices. I know at Concord Elementary we do have all of our doors, and I believe that's true at all schools, that the exterior doors are monitored. Is that really, do we want to continue to enhance that in different places depending on the school site and across the district?
As far as policies and procedures, we do want to emphasize that we have strong policies and procedures in place already. What we want to do is, given recent events, is we want to take that opportunity to really look at, review, and enhance what we already have. A lot of that is going to be around making sure that we have consistent practice of the policies and that they're implemented with fidelity throughout the district. Also, we've noticed, with basically with the drills that we have been running, there's some areas of concern that we want to continue to work at and basically partner with, as far as, our buildings are open to community ed services, and then other users use the facility as well. So we want to make sure that we're including those partners in part of our drills, and that they're a partner in developing these policies and procedures. Within the building itself, we want to look at, possibly, are there separate zones within a building that we can secure, whether that be appropriate given a certain event or situation. And then we want to make sure that we are kind of using a campus approach, and that we're coordinating our security efforts between the west and east campuses.
And yeah, as Jason mentioned, I think that we do have some opportunities, particularly with staff training. I'm not sure if I have not participated in a campus-wide, sort of an East Campus training event. If we had to do an evacuation at Concord and one happened at Southview as well, same time, just making sure that we're being really thoughtful and planful about those experiences. And again, working closely with our liaison officers, Aaron White, Brian Hubbard, along with the Edina Police Department, are going to be key partners as we continue to go through our training program. With our staff and with our administration. I know Rick brought a tabletop experience to one of our administrative meetings here recently, which was a valuable piece of practice for us as administrators. And then we've had a chance, I know some sites have had a chance to do that with their teachers as well. So I think those are key pieces. It talks about applied settings. I think you might have one coming up in the cafeteria. Places.
Might be tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow at Southview, and we've also had the chance to do that. What happens if kids are at recess? What do you do when kids are? We did a kids club, drill with kids club, and again working with Val and community ed to really make sure that we're practicing in all areas and in all places with our and training all staff, and again all staff including guest teachers or substitute staff members. It says receive administrative training. It'd be interesting to have a substitute principal. I know that would be great, but I think receive safety and security training at the sites that our staff members. And it's been interesting to talk with substitute teachers around this, because different districts have different practices, and learning some things that I think we're doing really well and are part of our policies around identification. But then also making sure they know what to do in the event of an emergency, a lockdown. And some of them have been a part of our drills. If they're there on that day, tomorrow that will be true at Southview, it sounds like, and just making sure that they're having that consistent training across. I like the term that Jason used in the last slide about fidelity, and just really making sure we do that across the district.
Oh, the button's not working again. Interesting. Well, anyways, the next slide would have kind of staffing there, and one of the things that we want to do with staffing is continue to partner with the City of Edina resources and various entities of the City of Edina. There's Rick. I don't know if you wanted to mention the interesting partnership that's happening between Valley View and the Edina Police Department that's coming up, I believe, over spring break. But that's something that we're looking forward to as we kind of move forward. As far as communications. Really, communications recommendations. The plan is that we think strongly that there should be a district approach to communications with the community, in addition to each individual site communicating with the community as far as safety and security concerns. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions that you might have? Knowing that when we do talk about with safety and security with staff, one of the challenges is. I think staff and buildings anyway, and I think I was this way as a teacher as well, is you can kind of what if yourself till forever, for that matter. And so just to be careful not to do that. And our police officers, I know, have met with our staff and really just making sure you know what to do to keep kids safe in those short-term moments. When the fire alarm goes off, we all know to walk out the door, and that you don't walk out the door where the fire is. If the fire's in front of you, it doesn't mean you still have to go out that door, that you're still using your head, you're still being responsive to the situation, but also knowing those things that are crucial, that you're going to get into a locked room safely. You're going to get any kids in the hallway, you're going to get them to a safe location and find the safe spot in the classroom or in whatever space you happen to be in. And so, because I think it's hard sometimes with safety and security, you could kind of what if scenarios forever. And it's important that to make those good decisions in the moment.
So I understand now, is it your same task force that's going to go ahead once, if these recommendations are accepted, to actually have some implementation steps for each one of these recommendations so that we know exactly what we're doing for each one of these recommendations going forward?
Yes, that would be the case.
And we have a document that also goes along with it that says, here's a recommendation, task force follow-up. For example, with facilities, we have to determine cost and you know, what would that be if we were looking at a facilities piece. I think Jason and I are going to take on some of this too, as we look at how do we make sure our administrators are prepared. I think with your training, you had a chance to go see some experts in the field and working closely with our police officers. How do we make sure our administrators are prepared, particularly as we, you know, go get ready, ramped up for next school year. Not to discount this school year, because clearly we've tried some things. I know Countryside has volunteers greeting people at the door. They've tried that, which was, as we worked as elementary principals, we want school to try that. How's that working? Do some reflection around that. But then I think, you know, we have a task force follow-up to each of these recommendations as well.
And do we have a projected timeline for when we'll see those implementation recommendations?
So I'll be part of our goal-setting process for that the board will seek approval on in July. But we're going to have further discussions as a board and as a community and staff around, I think the securing of that entrance point. At what level do we want to, I mean, if you put it on a 10-point scale, you know, what level of security do we want, because it is going to take some resources, be it talent or facilities, and we're going to have to measure that out and then have some way of assessing that. I think training is going to be a pretty natural, but again, that's one. But I think the debate and dialogue we need to have more around is that piece during the school day, and the other challenge is beyond the school day, of how because again, our buildings are very public and very accessible, and how do we create a safe setting in those, you know, and I think sometimes we're not looking at that intruder with a weapon in the building. We're just looking at some good safety practices that we want to apply. So while we often go to that extreme, I think there's a lot of challenges that we need to continue to, and we do an excellent job. I mean, our incident report is very minimal on anything that's happened, minor as it can be. So I think we have to celebrate that, but there is a need for more dialogue before we can make a commitment, I think, to that security issue at the front door.
Either of you could answer this question, particularly in the training section where you talked about conducting training drills in applied settings. You know, with you representing a middle school and you representing an elementary school, how do those look different for the different age groups when you're dealing with the kids and their depth of knowledge of why they're having these training drills?
If we start developmental, we'll start in kindergarten maybe. I think for us particularly, you know, is making sure our staff are prepared, because our kids really are mirroring our staff response. So, you know, whatever the situation happens to be, if it's a fire alarm, if we're maintaining calm and our staff know what to do, I feel like at the elementary school anyway, oftentimes our kids are mirroring, they're really good at following directions. I mean, you saw these Countryside kids here today. They will step up and I think for us, oftentimes, we just have to work, and I think working with our police department too, about which drills are appropriate for kids to participate in, which drills are appropriate for our staff. You know, an evacuation drill, that's going to be with our staff. I mean, I think we do something like that with our staff. I'm not going to have walk Concord Elementary over to, you know, I don't necessarily, you know, again, maybe our police officers would say something different, but we've talked about that, and I know we did some of that when I was at the middle school as well, because I think at the elementary school, our staff, our kids really do follow directions well. They respond, and now at the middle school, you know, I'll let you take it from there.
My experience has been that is when the students know in advance that the drill is going to happen, they do take it very seriously, and staff takes it very seriously. It's the goal of the drill is to make sure that the procedures are memorable and repeatable in high-stress situations. So our challenge is just to predict, you know, what might the different situations look like within our buildings. So, you know, just in processing with, you know, personnel in the building, as we identify, well, there's obviously just the classroom setting, so we can have a drill while class is happening, but then there's the lunch setting, what's going to happen in the cafeteria, and how can we make that memorable so that it doesn't have to be practiced for each grade level in the cafeteria, but maybe just for 6th grade, and then they have that memory long-term throughout their career at Southview. During passing time is going to be a key point as well. I think for Rick, he mentioned that, you know, for them it's recess. It's predicting those possible events and just practicing them.
And I would echo, I think with our 4th and 5th graders, we can do some of those things. They're bright kids. They're working with us. They're helping us, and even taking feedback from kids. I think at times, I know we've done some drills with Tom Jensen, who is our old fire marshal. He came in and tells the kids in a 5th grade classroom, "There's a fire in the corner. What do you do?" And they're live and they're thinking about it in the moment, and they say, "Well, we pulled the fire alarm. Where's the fire alarm?" "Well, it's down the hall." "Great. Nice job." And then everybody gets out of the building. We're going. So I think kids are sometimes a good resource, particularly as they get older and they can reflect a little bit on their experiences.
So currently, how many drills with students happen and how many with just staff currently?
So I think the state mandate is 11, and 5 are state water lockdown drills, and then the others would be fire drills, or no,
Severe weather.
and then a severe weather, a tornado.
So 11 with students are mandated.
Yeah, we
Yes.
have, I guess we haven't necessarily always counted just staff, but that would be a good thing to clarify across the district.
Yeah.
So, do staff-only drills count? Yeah, I mean, I would also say they're valuable, so I would guess
Right.
I maybe would advocate for that, but I guess I haven't, I don't know if the statute
Yeah.
gets that detailed.
Statute requires students, I believe.
Okay.
All right.
Additional questions or comments? Thank you both for your time and all your efforts.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next up, we have a leadership update. Dr. Dressen. We'll see if you can get the computer to work tonight.
Look at that, I haven't done anything, it's already there. This is definitely March Madness, or March Movement, as they say in Edina, where there's just a lot going on, and we're getting a lot of reports, and a lot of these reports are framing our action plans, as the board can see and the public can probably understand as we go forward as a school district. Just again, a quick update. All of our work is really focused on the fact that we are in a very strong position right now, and that the strategic plan that we put in place in 2007 is carrying us well. And so while we have this one wheel going forward around that constant planning of defining excellence and staying strong to our core, at the same time we're continuing to build our plan around where we want to end that next Edina Public Schools 2015. So the All for All will be phased in. You'll see this safety and security process being phased in a prudent way, a very thoughtful way. But I want to give you some updates. Again, based on our vision around this national and international presence, it's still the high expectations. It's still about each learner to achieve success. This is really our focus, and if you've listened tonight, I think you'll hear the word terms partnership, the role of communication plays, the importance of data, and how we're going to measure our progress, and the role of leadership. Those are all key pieces, and so as we do our report building, we really want to make sure those 4 key elements are part of our success story to make sure we reach that mission of success for all students with all of our support. Again, these are our major commitments for this year all the way through next year. We, again, will not go further on the All for All other than to let the board know that we'll be bringing a plan forward that does lay it out in more detail at the April meeting. The second major area is the secondary program study. The board spent quite a bit of time talking to administration at our work session. We're going to be getting more information out to the public as those broad recommendations start coming together through a vision and out through an implementation plan. Again, this is going to be shaped by further input from staff and community and best practices. We're also building our research pool. That there are school districts out there right now that are doing some very exciting things in secondary, and we're going to be able to use that. And so what makes sense in what some of these cutting edge schools or districts are doing to bring it back to Edina. The other piece around this funds, we're really going to be tracking closely now our funding legislature. We're watching that. The whole finance bills are starting to roll forward, so we'll have a better feel where we sit for the next couple weeks with our funding. But we will be doing some budget adjustments. We're looking at about a 1% adjustment in our general fund budget, and we'll be updating the board in April on that work. Around our partnership, we thank Susan Brott for her work with the communication and partnership plan, and she'll be scoring that out for us, again in implementation. And at the same time, another wheel that we are starting to spin very purposefully is our facility study. We will later tonight approve some action items around maintenance, but we're also taking a look at where do we need to go down the road as it looks to enhancing our facilities. So making sure our facilities align with the goals and the dreams that we have. And finally, that security study, we thank Rick and Jason for their presentation tonight. Just want to touch on personalized learning. In 2006, when we made a commitment to that, we really found 3 focus areas. One was around access and using data, where we became very intentional on saying we're measuring progress based on data. We've done a lot of work around that. The other piece, we worked hard on cultivating relationships and trying to make it a seamless experience from the elementary to the middle to the high school. Did a lot around how we can conference and how we continue to work our relationships between the home and the school, but also building that tight teacher-student relationship, and have had a strong focus on that. And the final area of our personalized learning was about responding flexibly. So that was all the intervention programming and all the specializing that we did without having to get a label on a student. But how could we respond in a timely way once we knew the data to build success? As we go forward, we're building on that past and now looking at it being in any time, any place, any device, any pace, any path for all learning. So as we continue to roll forward, you're going to see more and more language, and this is going to have more and more meaning as we roll out our study. But this thought of making sure we're pacing students, so if they're ready to advance, we allow them to advance. If they need more time or need more support, we're able to do that. But also in the area of interest, while we're going to continue to be strong to our core, what other options are out there to make sure our students are chasing their dreams, their hopes, their passions, their interests, their sparks. Do want to touch later tonight, the board will be approving the integration plan for the upcoming school year, the integration equity plan. This is a state budget that we do need to hit a timeline on that doesn't align with our budget. Mary Manderfield's worked very closely with that. The purpose of this plan really is around built in the 90s, and so it's a little dated, and that's why the state is continuing the legislature at the legislative level and in the department to look at updating this, but really is again about helping on our equity issues, especially around race, closing the gap, making sure opportunities are there. We've brought in a lot of new programs that Mary's helped champion in implementation. This is just examples of programming, again, that's helped with the personalized learning. Those are all still part of that budget plan that we'll be rolling out, and the board will be seeking to approve, or we'll be seeking board approval later tonight. Just on the budget and staffing, again, we're hitting the marks that we need to, and if you look at that March date, we're studying class size and instructional class, a number of professional licensed teachers working with our students. We're sorting out our leadership model. We're advertising both for an assistant special services director and at the same time an assistant principal. We'll have a focus on activities and athletics at the high school. Those are both in interim positions, but we're doing our targeted searches around that. The board will take action later tonight on the non-renewal of staff, but in April we'll start building our budget, and so we'll be working with the board and the community updates on that with final action in May. The board again talked a little bit about the retreat that the board was involved in January 12th. This is just good information for our community to be aware of how the board continues to grow their skills in the area of technology, but also just making sure they're more effective in your operations, and I appreciate your commitment to that work as far as how we're changing some of our committee processes, the protocols, and staying connected with the public and staff, and just providing more information. The board is scheduled to meet later this month as a follow-up to this, but just wanted to highlight that for the community. That kind of gives you a leadership overview for our month of March. Take any questions at this point?
Questions, comments?
I think you had sent an email about the potential impact from the sequester on integration funds. Can you just?
So it was on the special education funding?
Is that what that was?
So the federal dollars, and we're at a best guess, Margot, at about 100,000.
Correct, just on special ed federal funding there. We do receive federal funds for title programs, which also would be included. It's about 5% of our federal programs, a little over 5.
So we don't know if that's going to come out of the budget yet. Depends on what the federal government does.
We're planning to pull that out of the budget, so we're assuming that at this point, we're taking the safe route and saying that we've lost that $100,000 of funding. So as we plan for that much less. If it rolls back in, that's good news for us, but we're taking the more conservative approach on that.
Additional question?
A lot going on.
We're rocking.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Next up, we have our consent agenda. Get a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded to approve our consent agenda. Rick, could you walk us through, please?
I will. A variety of personnel recommendations. Again, this is the time of the year where we have terminations, non-renewals. Last month, we had a lot of the people who are retiring. But again, we stay in touch, and these are personal contacts we make with our staff around this, so they're aware of the status of their positions. We have some expenditures payable from our February 25th session, as well as some commendations, and then, as I mentioned earlier, a field trip with our Japanese team to Maryland. And that would conclude the consent agenda.
Thank you, Rick. Any items in the consent agenda that anybody would like to remove or questions? Seeing none, we will proceed to a roll call vote. Sarah?
Almog?
Aye.
Sella?
Aye.
Meyer?
Aye.
Neville?
Aye.
Patzlav? Aye. Skrentner?
Aye.
Wallen Friedman?
Aye.
Great. Next up, we're on to the action portion of this evening's meeting. First item is the integration budget, which we did have a presentation on earlier.
Mary Manderfeld coordinates this.
Well,
I updated the board at through my leadership report. But Mary, is there any other comments you want to make about the budget itself and some of the goals?
Make a motion first?
Yeah. Get a
I'll
get a
move.
motion?
I'm sorry.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion?
This has to be approved by March 15th per MDE. And with the total budget, as you can see, we get 981,000, of which we give almost 20% back to be part of the West Metro Education Partnership. In addition, they are recommending that no more than 10% go to administrative costs, no more than 30% go to staff development, at least 60% go to student direct programming. And if you look at ours, actually, we're pretty much at like 85% of our budget is going directly to student programming. If you look at the bottom there, all those programs, whether we're looking at young scholars or AVID or intervention teachers at our middle schools, you know, scholarshiping students for all-day kindergarten, scholarshiping students for needs as they arise, or family outreach efforts, computers, that is pretty much 85% of the integration budget that we have.
And the integration budget is state money, correct?
Correct.
Primarily?
And Margot can also interject there, because some can be local levied.
It's both. It's 30% local levy, 70% state aid, and currently that's being discussed at the legislature right now. But it would not, my understanding, the current discussions would affect 14, 15 and beyond, because we've already levied for 13, 14. You as a board approved that in December.
Okay.
Mary, I just have a quick question. Under goal number 1, we list the different programs that we're giving support to, and we have a math support at Valley View and a literacy support at Southview. Is that a specific decision that we're doing math at one spot and reading in the other spot?
The decision was they really do double blocked at both schools for both populations. So whether a student needs intervention in math or reading, or whether they're at Valley View or Southview, they get the double blocked in both. And we could have probably chosen to do math at both. We probably could have chosen to do reading at both. It's just been, for the last 3 years, we paid for a particular math teacher at Valley View, and it has allowed them some flexibility, and we paid for a intervention reading teacher at Southview.
the services are available for both at both.
Additional questions? Comments? Proceed to a vote.
I
Go
would
ahead.
just like to thank the members of the school board for your support of the programs that we are able to offer for our students. I think, the data will show that for a number of these students, it's making a difference, and that's really the point of this funding.
Thank you, Mary. Additional questions, comments? Roll call?
Almog?
Aye.
Silla?
Aye.
Meyer?
Aye.
Neville?
Aye.
Patzloff?
Aye.
Screntner?
Aye.
Wallen Friedman?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes. Next up, we have approval for our strategic communications plan. Can I get a motion, please?
Moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We did have a presentation earlier tonight on this. Any discussion? Comments? Thank you, Susan, for all your work. Anybody? Roll call?
Almog?
Aye.
Silla?
Aye.
Meyer?
Aye.
Neville?
Aye.
Patzloff?
Aye.
Screntner?
Aye.
Wallen Friedman?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next up, we have our safety and security plan. Can I get a motion, please?
Moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. We did have a presentation on this item. Any discussion? Comments? Roll call?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next up, we're off to our capital maintenance projects. And this motion includes Creek Valley Elementary School window replacement, Edina High School and Valley View Middle School window replacements, and Concord Elementary mechanical improvements, bid A and bid B. And we also amended this to include some pool lighting at Southview Middle School. And a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Little background? Margot?
The first four projects are part of the 10-year plan that was approved in May. The Southview Lighting Project is actually an alternative facilities project for this current year that we're in, and the reason it is coming for approval this late, it took quite some time to be able to find available time to get in the pool to because it's always busy with swim season, so we will start this work the beginning of June.
I noticed that a lot of the bids were under budget. Is that, again, a timing as we saw last month or last meeting when we were approving some paving projects?
Yes.
That were going out early in the
We
season?
asked again, and vendors are saying that, we're out early enough, and particularly for starting in spring, they don't have work, and they're looking for early spring work. And that may change as we move along here in the next few months and start projects during the summer.
And then I did notice that the one project for the high school windows, the Creek Valley windows came in under budget, but the high school windows came in over budget. Is there some particular issue with our high school windows?
Not to my knowledge. Overall, combined together, we're still under budget. Just the competitive process.
Okay, thank you.
So I noticed on the Concord that there's a bid A and a bid B. Are those projects related? Because I think it looks like they're being assigned to different bidders.
Bid A is for unit ventilators, and bid B is air handling units.
And so, I mean, if we have different contractors, are we going to have them pointing at each other if the system isn't working? I mean, the difference in the bid isn't very much.
To my knowledge, that is not an issue. We can award together, or we can award separately. If it was an issue, we would have combined the bids together as one.
Maybe you can answer this, but I'm curious why when we upgraded or built the new, is this in the new pool that we're replacing lighting already?
Correct.
Is it new style of lighting that has come out?
It is more energy efficient and also lighting efficient.
Okay.
In terms of The existing lighting is very, very bright onto the water, is my understanding. But it does need upgrading in terms of being more energy efficient.
Okay. Thank you. Additional discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a roll call vote for the capital maintenance projects.
Almog?
Aye.
Sella?
Aye.
Meyer?
Aye.
Neville?
Aye.
Patzloff?
Aye.
Skrentner?
Aye.
Wallen Friedman?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next up, we have our technology purchases, including internet service, data and internet lines and services, and local and long-distance phone service. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Steve, any background?
Thank you. We've recently found that our internet isn't able to keep up with the capacity and the demand. A couple weeks ago, we found that we were pegging out our 100 megabit connection. So we quickly added 200 megs to our internet, so we are at 200 megs right now. But that led us to rethink kind of our projections, and so there's two action items in here. One for a 6-month continuation of our 200 megs. Then starting in January, we'll switch to 300 megs. And the 300 meg has what's called gigabit burstable speed, which means that we really don't have any limit up until a gigabyte worth of speed. So going forward, we should be able to have the capacity to continue as our demand for internet increases. We're filling these out for E-rate purposes. We'll get a 41% discount from E-rate, and then a equity aid, another 40%. And so the prices will be receiving about a $30,000 rebate because of those two initiatives.
So as we roll out BYOD, if we find for whatever reason that our demand in 2 years, do we have the ability then to just increase?
That is correct. With the new model starting January 2014, it automatically increases. And so we purchase for a certain level based on student enrollment, but it will go all the way up to a gigabit. So it will go up to 10 times more than we were using this year.
And then on the long-distance phone service, we had put out an RFP for 2 years that was going forward, but now the new contract's just on a month-to-month basis. Can you just give me the rationale for why we're going to month-to-month?
Yes, because of E-rate filing, we had a 2-year with a 3rd-year option. E-rate said we couldn't do the 3rd year, and so what I'd like to do is go out for an RFP, do it properly going forward. Because of the time frame, we didn't have a good time, and when we looked at some of the quotes, it was good. So our plan is, as a district, is to leave the month-to-month in place, which will be no cost increase, but go out for a RFP to really investigate whether or not there's cost savings, both on our cellular and on our long distance and phone lines, and that'd be for next year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Additional questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a roll call vote on the technology purchases.
Almog?
Aye.
Sella?
Aye.
Meyer?
Aye.
Neville?
Aye.
Patzloff?
Aye.
Skrentner?
Aye.
Wallen Friedman?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next up is a revised strategic plan key initiatives. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
It's discussed at the February meeting. It's just some minor adjustments on timing, hitting some timelines. And then we've also added 2 areas of study, one around mental health needs of students. We see it as a possible grow area, and we're looking at some partnerships around that. And the second is this whole time alignment. So it's calendars, it's schedules, it's parent-teacher conferences, it's teacher prep time. It's just really how do we maximize our time. And again, what we are starting to see school districts and schools look differently at time, and so we hope to ride that wave and work on that initiative.
Thank you, Rick. Questions or comments? Discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed for a vote on the revised strategic plan initiatives.
Almog?
Aye.
Sella?
Aye.
Meyer?
Aye.
Neville?
Aye.
Patzloff?
Aye.
Skrentner?
Aye.
Wallen Friedman?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next up, item G, our schedule review of the 200 series policies. We have revised policy 211 and revised policy 217. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. We have seen these previously. Any discussion?
The policies have been discussed already, and what we saw in this particular packet streamlines some of the language, provides some clarifications, updates some legal references, and separates, as we've mentioned before, 408 is pulling some of the language specifically addressing personnel from 211 school board section to the personnel section in the 400s.
Thank you, Regina. Thank you, Policy Committee. Any additional discussion or questions? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote on the schedule review of the 200 series policies.
Almag?
Aye.
Sella?
Aye.
Meyer?
Aye.
Neville?
Aye.
Patzloff?
Aye.
Skrentner?
Aye.
Wallen Friedman?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Our next item is the schedule review of the 400 series policies. We've seen these before, revised policy 401, 402, and 408. Can I get a motion, please?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion, background, comments?
Again, the 408 tied to 211, so just clarification. 401 and 402, updating of references, and hopefully smoother, better language.
You'll be happy to know, after all my suggestions last time, I have nothing. You did it all. It's beautiful.
We
Nothing to
appreciated
say.
your suggestions, and we're able to incorporate them at their last policy meeting on March 1st. So thank you.
Thank you all. Discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote for the 400 series policies. 401, equal employment opportunity, 402, disability, non-discrimination, and 408, subpoena of a school district employee.
Almag?
Aye.
Sella?
Aye.
Meyer?
Aye.
Neville?
Aye.
Patzloff?
Aye.
Skrentner?
Aye.
Wallen Friedman?
Aye.
Thank you all. Motion carries. Next up, we have our 2013-14 budget enhancements. And a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion, background?
And these are one-time enhancements. One relates to special ed services that are needed to finish out our year with caseload shifting, be it to new needs or new students. We'll make adjustments then accordingly for the 13-14 year, and the other is a one-time as relates to some technology support as we continue to grow our vision card. We want some computer programming support. We think it's going to be best spent on a one-time expenditure around a computer consultant or a computer programming consultant, and would ask the board to accept it at this point.
I think we need to note that these say 2013-14 budget
That's
enhancement, as we talked at the workshop, these are actually 2012, 2013 adjustments. So it's for the current year budget and not next year's budget.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy, for that clarification. That will get fixed, and so we accept it as a friendly amendment. Additional discussion, $80,000 in one-time general funds to support these targeted initiatives. Seeing no discussion, we can proceed to a vote.
Almag?
Aye.
Sella?
Aye.
Meyer?
Aye.
Neville?
Aye.
Patzloff?
Aye.
Skrentner?
Aye.
Wallen Friedman?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next up, we're under discussion items for this evening. Review of policies 403 and 404.
The discussion so far on 403 and 404 at our last policy meeting is discussing what is current practice, trying to work with the current language to ensure that it's reflecting current practice, and again, working with smoother language. But any questions?
Since these are new ones, I do have a couple of things
That's all right.
to ask about, and you can just take
I
notes.
have them up and ready for notes.
You can just take
I'm
notes
ready
and
to
look
go.
at them at your next policy committee meeting, I would say. And for 403, when we get to section C on misconduct, C2, I don't see how C2 is different from A, which was, or subsection B, which talks about failing to follow policy. So it seemed to be the same to me.
I can address that briefly because the same question came up at the policy meeting. So we are still thinking in sync. The response in terms of assisting current practice is that when it's necessary to review employee misconduct, it's helpful to point out nuances that may be a little bit different between some of the language in one versus another. So it's been helpful to have each of these enumerated separately rather than combining them for something shorter.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Then I would say under number, is it still C, number 14, which seems to be one of those catch-alls, other good and sufficient grounds, but it's not listed as the last one, because then we list a couple more. I would just move that down.
Recommend as last.
Yeah, since that's in the ending catch-all.
Okay, we'll talk about that. Thanks. What else?
And then that one as well in forms of discipline for A, we've changed something around and we've taken off suspension with pay. It's just not listed. Am I just assuming that that's other forms of discipline under B? Or was there some discussion about that?
Question came up as well, yes. And the explanation behind that is that there is the option for suspension with pay in other situations in the district, but in the world of discipline, that is not currently part of practice.
Okay. That answers that question on that. I think that's all I have on that policy.
Okay.
I think I had something on the background checks. If we're ready to go to that, talk about that one.
Yeah, Lenny, did you have anything else to add? Or Lonnie, anything else to add on 403 that I may not have covered?
No, you've done a good job, Regina.
Okay.
So background checks, just our form at the back is styled for employees only, and it talks about being able to deduct things from paychecks, et cetera. But the policy itself, we've now made it broader to talk about people who aren't technically our employees and might be volunteers. So the form should probably be revised, or maybe we want two separate forms.
We'll take that up at the next meeting. We talked a little bit about the difference of how the fee would be deducted, whether an employee actually moved forward to the hiring process or potentially may not. But you are correct, the language is not different, so
No, and
we'll
all
talk
the,
about that.
and the form is actually titled for prospective employees, and all the language uses employees, so we just
Employee.
probably want to
Sure.
generalize the language there.
Thank you.
And other than that, I didn't have anything. Nicely done.
Thank you.
Additional discussion or questions? Any other policy issues? Seeing none, we're on to information and any announcements?
We are just tracking the legislature, and that's always a busy time of the year as well. And watching how that's rolling, we continue to keep our partnership close with the city of Edina. We were involved in the State of the Community presentations that are now airing, just talking a little bit about both the city and the district, how we work, and then also how we work together. And there are a variety of initiatives that we're working on around that, and that would pretty much conclude my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Rick. Any other additional announcements? Nothing. No. Seeing none, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second to adjourn. Any objection to adjourning at this time? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you all.